Hi guys, so I wanted to come on here and do a kind of raw review. At the time of filming this, I've literally just finished reading Frogkisser by Garth Nix. So I wanted to kind of just express my thoughts straight off the bat. I haven't even written my Goodreads review just yet, but obviously by the time this is uploaded, I'll have hopefully a well-formed written review that hopefully goes into depths of some of the thoughts that I've mentioned here and some of the stuff that I've forgotten to mention here, so do check out that if you do want a more well written, worded review. So this is Garth Nix's latest book. I think it's described as a middle grade fantasy, and it's about, let's see how many pages it is. I think it's about 380 pages or so, but I do think it would be an actual like 500-600 page book if it was like the standard size, because this is quite a small book if you look at it, and it's got quite small font, so I do think it would be a longer book, and even it being like short in this kind of style, it did feel like a long book, and it took me a while to read. But before I go into all that, let me just briefly explain to you what it's about. So Frogkisser is set in the world of, I think you call it Trailonia or something like that. We're following Princess Anya. She lives with her sister Morven and her stepfather. It explains how that is possible in the story, which is quite funny. I would describe this to be a kind of parody, but still like a really fun story of like fairy tales, like a traditional fairy tale. So Princess Anya is set on this quest to basically overthrow her stepfather Duke Rickard, because he's an evil sorcerer, and as his power grows he's becoming more cruel and less human, and more willing to get rid of his stepchildren basically, because he doesn't need them there. He wants to take over the kingdom, and he wants to kill off the burdens, which would be the princesses. So she's set this quest to go and seek out allies and basically defeat him, and it's a really fun adventure story fantasy book. I would say it might not be middle grade, just because I don't know if a lot of middle grade children will like get the humour. I mean, it's not the most cryptic of humour or anything like that, but it takes fun of some of the classic fairy tales. I'm not sure, depending on their level of intelligence or whatever, not like the average middle grade child will probably not pick up on that, but I guess the parents reading it to them possibly would be able to, you know, understand that it's being poked fun at and laugh at that. And also, it is a beast of a book. I actually think it's quite, oh, I folded my little dust jacket, oh no. I actually think it's quite a big book. There's no pictures or anything, so for me personally, when I think of a middle grade book, I think of something that possibly may have illustrations in it, or something that is less dense than this. This has quite a few sentences in it that are very long, if you know what I mean, and I just think it's quite dense for a middle grade book. However, in saying that, if you know a child of that age that enjoys reading, loves fantasy, loves fairy tales, they'll probably devour it. So I guess it depends on the child. You can't class everyone as being, you know, in this one set of mind frame, is that the word? So it could be classed, I guess, as a middle grade book, but I just think it's quite dense. In terms of the characters, I absolutely loved them. There was Anya. She was obviously the main character of this story. She was so good. Some of the witty things she was coming out with, it just really made me chuckle. The general storyline of this, like the conversations with characters and everything, they just had such great, I don't like this word, but banter is the only way I could describe it. Like the conversation just flowed from character to character. We had Ardent, who was part of the original pack as well. He was the royal dog and basically Anya's best friend and like advisor sort of thing, and he was amazing. He'd continuously stutter, and it's almost like I could visualize him talking. Like, I mean, dogs don't talk, right? But in this world, animals can talk if you understand them and that. And I could visualise him stuttering in his excitement, because he's still just a puppy. Like, he's just coming out of that puppyhood, if you know what I mean. And I could just imagine him speaking so fast, he's like tripping over his words and that, and he's trying to restrain himself because he's a royal dog and he's supposed to be professional. But it's just so funny, the way he was written, I could totally visualise. So that was an amazing experience. We then had Shrub, who was part of the main original cast of characters, who was a very interesting character. I quite liked him, but it was a bit naughty, I'd say. And then we have some more characters that you meet throughout the story. So I forgot to mention, part of Princess Anya's quest is to change Prince Denholm back into a prince, because the Duke Rickard has turned him into a frog, and so that's where the title Frogkisser comes from. It is a really good story, honestly guys. I enjoyed it so much. I did want to mention that it did take me a while to read, and I like to mention that whenever I read a book, and especially if I'm giving it praise, because in my head, when I've said this so many times, but I like to just put this out there, when I take ages to read a book, sometimes it's because it's just not, you know, I'm not gravitated towards it, and sometimes that can diminish my overall opinion on this book. But I couldn't. By the time I got to, like, I don't know, it's when I got into the book I was really devouring it, especially the last couple of chapters. I have to kind of just diminish the fact that it took me a while to read, because overall I've really enjoyed it, and every time I picked it up I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to disregard the fact that it took me that while, but just for my own opinion, just for my own records, I started reading this on September the 9th. I'm filming this video on October the 18th, and that's when I finished it. So over a month it's taken me to read, and I don't usually take that long to read books. But you know what? I just think it was me getting back into it. September's usually a busy month for me as well, so I'm just going to say I was otherwise distracted. But when I did jump back into this world, it was so much fun. I could read chunks at a time. The characters were amazing. The storyline, it was very simple, but again, added with the humour that it did have, it just made everything so much better. It was fun. It was good old quality, traditional action, adventure sort of thing. Fairy tale, but it had that overlining parody to it, and I think that's what made it so much more special, I guess, and just, I don't know, a joy to read. So I'm really glad I checked this out. Originally when I saw this, I just thought, well, Garth Nix is one of my favourite authors, I would class him as that. I'm just going to pick it up regardless. I didn't really know too much about what it was about, and even when I read the its synopsis on the inside, I was like, okay, this could go like one of two ways, and to be honest, I really enjoyed it. And plus, that's really gorgeous, isn't it? Look at that, really beautiful. So yeah, I would totally recommend this if you like any of the themes I've mentioned, or if you just like the author Garth Nix. I felt like I forgot his name then, I don't know. Give it a go. It's so much fun. I think adults would appreciate it more, just because it's got that little bit of poking fun at a very popular traditional storytelling sort of act, you know. I think I'm going to leave that here, because I think I'm rambling now. I'm going to go ahead and start typing up my review and try and make it more understandable. Let me know if you've read this book, what you thought about it. How do you rank it in terms of his other books as well? For example, I find it really difficult, because every time I read one of Garth Nix books, I can't help it, I just do it. I'm always comparing them to the Old Kingdom series, but the original trilogy, just because that was so, in my mind, it was one of the best set of books I've ever read, I think. So I'm always weighing up his next books to that, which is difficult, you know. So let me know if you're the same, or if you just can completely separate things like that. And yeah, just let me know your thoughts. I will speak to you in another video soon. Bye.